We are here to bring you everything and anything surrounding Porsche. I'm Mike.
I'm Aaron.
And this is P-Car Talk. All right, welcome to an episode of P-Car Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm Aaron.
And we got a good show for you guys. We're going to talk about the new Turbo S, talk about Vanthoor, this month's giveaway, and then the 2022 GT3.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? So let's get started. So Porsche Turbo S, generally, this car comes out at the end of a model run.
It does, or it has.
Yeah. However, things are a little flip the script this time, right?
Yep.
This has come out before a lot of the other cars, almost just as new as the launch model.
That's true.
So, and on top of that, they're offering a lot of PTS colors for all the people who took pre-order on a lot of these Turbo S's as far as
cool.
And people are taking delivery on these things. Generally speaking, they offer this at the end because the model itself, let's be honest, it doesn't matter how perfect any car company is. There's little quirks and things and bugs in the car that they try to work out before it gets to the model run where it's almost as perfect as it can be from a manufacturing standpoint, and then they release the Turbo S. That's generally how things happen because that's supposed to be the pinnacle of its own lineup. I know a lot of people think a GT car is the pinnacle, but actually the Turbo S is supposed to be the pinnacle of whatever Porsche 911 market model they're in at that moment.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the most refined, supposed to be the best power, all the good stuff. Pretty much the essence of what Porsche has been from day one. That's their company motto behind that. Why do you think this is happening now, where they've flipped the script, where they're not offering it at model end now, they're offering it, I don't know, I don't even know if you would call this, I would just say like, this is for annual year of launch, so it's launch year. Why are they offering it in launch year? Are they that confident with the 992 chassis where they're like, there's no bugs, boom, kick it down the road, let's go?
They might be. I think it has to do with the single chassis this year.
Yeah.
First time they're able to just throw the motor in and then add the accoutrements to it.
Yeah, where they don't have to make it different. Kind of like maybe, a 997 when it first came out, that they waited to the end to get the Turbo S out, or the 996, they waited to the end because, the first kind of cars that were launched were the base cars. And then, the Turbo came out, which was a wider body car. And then the Turbo S can be made because now you have a wider body. That's a good point because there isn't a wider body. They're all wide bodies, even the base. So like you said, they're just basically changing all the guts out, different drivetrain, all that stuff. Maybe that sped up their process, huh?
And offering PTS, that's new because normally they wouldn't do that at the beginning either.
Yeah, that's usually at the end of the run too. Do you think it... I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, maybe they did that almost kind of like, and where I was looking is more recently what Porsche's done, not something in the past. What they did with remember they did the Taycan Turbo S, which is the highest, most expensive model. That was the first car that they kind of put out. You think they're kind of doing a top-down, like throw the most expensive car out and then work their way backwards?
Like a flag, throwing their flagships
Exactly.
out.
Do you think that's kind of where maybe they took a page out of that Taycan Turbo S move, and then they're saying, like, why don't we just sell the most expensive car out the gate and then funnel it down? Yeah.
And then continue to roll it back into the program for the 2021s.
So it's everything... Basically below it is less sticker shock, right? It's like, it's that much cheaper than Turbo S. Oh, it's that much cheaper than Turbo S.
We even caught ourselves saying it, especially because Taycan Turbo S was 180 and up. And they were like, the 4S is only 104.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we said it, and then, okay, well, that
Which
makes
sounds
sense.
pretentious as shit, right? Where you go like, well, it's only 104. But when you hear it's like,
less,
when it's like $100,000 less than the other car, it almost... Yeah, it's kind of a mind fuck, right?
Well,
like where you're like,
it's a
okay.
classic sales technique, though.
Of course.
But that's good on Porsche, I guess.
But that could be another reason why they're doing it, though, right?
Yeah.
They're like, okay, you could buy a Turbo S at PTS at like $225,000, or you could get a base Carrera for $130,000.
Yeah, if anybody has an issue with the pricing on bases,
and then you're like,
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, $130,000 sounds a lot better than $230,000.
What's the difference in it? What's the performance difference?
Exactly. Well, it's the same body.
It still has turbos.
It's still the wide body for the base. So you're good.
It's true.
All you got to do is get it tuned. This will do Turbo S stuff. bullshit. But I thought that was super, super interesting. Not a recent thought that I've had, but like something that's been lingering with me as I'm seeing a lot of social media traction and all this stuff around these PTSs. And there's a lot of sites that follow each PTS that comes in. And there's been a lot of unique Turbo S colors coming in, some that I haven't seen in a very, very long time. You know,
do you feel like they're limiting to the same amount that they've done in the past for Turbo S's? Or do you think this is going to be more like the GT cars where you're going to start seeing them a lot more?
Honestly, I think they don't have to limit them, but I think they will limit them. And what I mean by that is I just think there's so much hype around GT cars. I think that people who want Turbo S's like almost really know Porsche in a way. And because we've talked about this before, like there's a big depreciation curve in Turbo S's, even like if you go look at a 15 or 16, and they're not like rock bottom bases, but you're still getting a powerhouse of a car for like $125,000, $130,000.
That's a 60 to 70 grand savings easy.
Yeah. So I'm not saying the new ones are going to do that, but I'm saying like this one's different. Like this is a stratospheric. It's leaps and bounds above the other Turbo S's. This is really in the supercar category, even though it's not classified as a supercar. It's doing supercar things.
And it keeps getting pitted against those every other review.
Yeah, I mean it's getting put against 720S's, which looks like a space shuttle when it's sitting next to it. Like meaning the McLaren does, not the Porsche, and then it rips it. And the 720S's, if you don't know, they're lightning. So this car just tells you what it's capable of. Like I said, it's in a whole nother dimension. I think some of the cool colors I've seen like leaf green in these things. Like they look outstanding. So it's not just
the standard like Ruby Stone or Mexico.
Yeah.
People are actually going out and doing some.
Yeah, actually, I haven't even seen a Ruby Stone one yet. You saying that, but
turn green or birch. Or
seen a couple Voodoos. I've seen Mexico. I'm seeing all different types of colors. I think I've seen like I saw a nice purple. I forgot what they called it, but
aubergine or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think it was aubergine, but
Cassis.
It was almost a 964 like that. Remember that purple one we drove? Like it was like that like lavender-ish 964 color.
Blue,
yeah, viola. Yeah, I think that's what it was. But it looked really cool. I don't know. I mean, I still think they haven't worked out. There's not enough R&D of them out there. Like, so I want to play devil's advocate for a second.
I mean,
if you spend $230 on one, say you're one of these buyers, and say there's and Porsche never has any like major mechanical functions that like wrong with it, but just like annoying shit where you got to bring it in. Would it bother you to drop $230 on a car and be like, yeah, the damn window regulator keeps failing on this particular model? Like, would that bother you? Or would you just be like, whatever?
Well, if it did and I didn't have a driver to drive it and take it back and bring it to me, I probably would be annoyed with that. Yeah, I mean, if there were piddly things like that.
And I'm just making things up. Yeah. Like, I can't predict if anything's going to be wrong. And where I'm going with this was the whole like refinement thing, where they haven't been able to.
I don't think
identify to be like, okay, maybe it's the new software. It's in the freaking like head unit.
Maybe
I don't
that's
know.
why they waited, but I really think it's just the what they have to do for all the different tooling in the factory to make those cars the difference. And then one, they're not high production numbers anyways, so I don't think it mattered to them if they're only going to put out 500
or 1,000 cars, whatever.
Okay, they're
like,
coming at the end. Cool.
What are the odds?
These people have multiple cars. We know our demographic. They're not worried. This is not their daily. They're not trying to get it next week. That type of thing, and we can spec them out the way we want.
Do you think it makes them less special because they're coming out so early? Meaning, like, instead of being at the end where everybody remember with that story we heard about the slant nose Turbo S that was made in the 80s. But it didn't come out, and it was a G-body car, but it came out in the middle of the 964 run because it took so long to make this specific car.
Yeah, well, I was just about to make the opposite thing, where maybe this is the one time they do it early, and then now somebody's going to have an early Turbo S 992, and then they never do it again. I mean, you never know what comes out.
Or they don't offer PTS anymore because they're like, well, you should have got in on the pre-order.
Yeah.
And like you can get a Turbo S, but they're only in standard palette wheel colors. that could be another thing they do too. And like to reward people for early buying.
Yeah, and who knows how long it takes to get the PT. I mean, I'm sure there's no PTS turnaround timeline, but maybe that does take a little while.
Maybe, but they're being delivered now in the U.S. Like everybody who pre-ordered on this. So also with confidence, this goes back to these are Porsche people that are buying these cars because they didn't even have, like back when they put their allocations in and put their orders in on these cars for them to be being delivered now. Remember when they did the launch video? Was it like 6 months ago when showing the Turbo S and all that other stuff? And this was prior to that. This was like at, the new 992's coming out. Oh, you want a Turbo S? You don't even know what it really looks like, and you're buying one. So those are real Porsche enthusiasts, or you just have an ass load of money, whatever, or both. So there's some confidence behind that. So maybe there's some reward by Porsche saying like, you didn't know exactly what this was really going to look like, and we're going to allow you to PTS this because you're so early on it. Maybe it's a concession.
Then you get one up by your neighbor that got the Turbo S in the plane.
Yeah, because they didn't make that many. Yeah, they only made like a special run.
They still got PTS.
Yeah.
So no big deal.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they went ham on that. It's something different that Porsche's doing, and maybe they're just doing it different just to do it different because they've always done it the other way. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're just trying to change what's going on within their company to get the data from it to see what the response is too. They could be doing that because they're like, well, we never do this.
Yeah, let's try putting the flagship out first.
Yeah, let's see what this looks
Halo
like.
Product, and then
maybe this car will create so much press buzz, and all the people that maybe can't afford the 230 Turbo S, they can go out and get a Carrera S because maybe that car, that car reeled them in with all of the stomping that it's done in social media and YouTube and all the other places and how fast it is and all the wow and all this other stuff. And you see all of those, and now you're convinced. You're like, okay, well, I'm a buyer, but I can't afford that. What can I get something close? Okay, you can get a Carrera S. Okay, maybe that's how it's selling.
That's a very good media pull because then you're against all the other big manufacturers in a way, no matter if you're buying the Carrera or not.
Yeah,
the Turbo S is getting pitted against the McLarens, like we talked about. Anything else, anything.
Yeah.
That's close to it. And it's going to be top tier. So
yeah, and maybe it's another way to bring in other buyers too, right? To like other lines. You're like, okay, well, you can start here, maybe work your way to a Turbo S someday. You're not there yet, but maybe, hey, we'll get you in.
Well, that one guy's getting his turbo after he had 3 turbos. He had to decide to get a Ferrari, and then he's like,
the guy we talked about, where he's just like, I don't want this anymore.
He's like, it's just not like a Turbo S, man.
I didn't know that you talked to him about that.
Yeah, he was like, but I think he had 3 hit.
What was in a 458?
Yeah, 488 GTB.
Okay.
Then he's had that for a while. He's like, it's cool.
You heard it right there. He had a 488 GTB and he wants a Turbo S.
His 992 is on the way.
Yeah, I bet. So let's move on. Vanthoor, if you don't know who he is,
Lawrence
worked and raced for Porsche Factory Racing in their RSR team. If you haven't heard us bitch and moan about it multiple times, that team has been disbanded for 2021 racing season. And basically we wondered, and we thought some of this might happen. These guys would start to scatter to other teams once their contractual agreements were basically done with Porsche because they don't have a team anymore. So he's going to race at PTAF, right?
Yeah, the Pfaffenhaus or whatever.
Pfaffenhaus team. Canadian-based team, right?
Yep, that's why he made that comment about Belgian waffles are good with maple syrup.
Yeah. So cool for him that he's going to race with them. Another Porsche race car driver is going to be racing with them too, right? Campbell's going to be with them, I think.
Yeah, I think
so. Because Matt Campbell, I think, was also announced. So we're going to see these guys end up on other teams. So we're still going to see them racing, but they're not going to be in GTLM. They're going to be in GTD. Do you think that's going to be enough to carry the Porsche interest from a fan base to see these guys on other privateer teams duke it out?
I think they were only cool to me because they were on the GTLM team.
Yeah. And I think now it turns them into a powerhouse of a team in GTD, right? So now it turns them.
I was thinking about that. I was like, Jan's got work to do.
Yeah.
Those boys got.
Well, all of those teams are. Maybe that's why when we talked to him about it, he was like, it's going to be a tough field because he knew these Porsche drivers were going to get disbanded and they were going to end up in other Porsches, but on privateer teams. And he's like, they're going to bring the house, man.
You got Estra on the evil side now.
Yeah, he's Corvetting for whatever reason. They must have just thrown money at him. That's the only thing I could think about.
No, he's British, so isn't he? So
Yeah, but still,
he likes muscle cars.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what it is.
So you think we're going to see more of this? I mean, this was just an announcement that we saw. I mean, this is what we know of, like official.
We saw with. I mean, we went way back in the day. I mean, that's what Patrick's been doing forever now. But because of this disbandment, I think that's what they're going to support, and that's whenever we heard other people are coming back over for Rolex. It didn't make sense, but it does make sense now because they're still factory.
Yeah, like Pascal's. He's like, I'll be there. And I'm like, what are you going to be doing over there?
Yeah, they're still backed and they're still being watched.
Well, they're still collecting data. So that's another thing too. So they still want to know what their cars are doing.
Still customer racing.
Yeah. So they're still going to support it where, we've talked about in other prior shows where they can literally dial the car up at the track via the computer, whether they're not.
Related but unrelated F1 talk. Verstappen was like in the interview talking, and he had Hamilton and what's his face? I can't remember the other guy that was it Bottas or whatever his name is on both sides of him, right? He's like, yeah, it's a shame that Mercedes had to turn down the motors, and then Hamilton goes, "What'd you just say?" They didn't know that Mercedes had turned down the motors for both the cars because they had blown. But okay, side note. But now we're back on.
So it's almost like
Verstappen just dropped it like nothing.
Yeah, because he knew, and then Hamilton didn't. Hilarious.
Yeah, both Mercedes guys are like,
"What'd you say?
I didn't know about that.
What'd you say, son?" I'm fighting words.
All right. Side note about engines being turned down, but
yeah. But so that's another reason. If you guys didn't know that happens actively during a race at times, especially with these privateer teams. I mean, we've been very close to other teams where Allegra Motorsports, where they won the 24 hours in their class, and we had them on the show, like Carlos and Scooter were telling us, like, as they were the last standing Porsche car, basically Porsche factory engineers, one of the last, or not last times, but as they were realized that they had a really good shot, came over into their pits when the car pitted and hooked the computer up to it while they were doing like a driver change and all that other stuff, and like dialed up the car even a little bit more. Yeah. Which is kind of crazy to think about, right?
Yeah. That's legal.
Yeah. I guess. But I guess it's race management though, right?
I'm sure it's within parameters.
No, it is. I'm not saying they're like, so I don't want to like mislead anybody by like these guys are doing something like no other team is doing.
Brothers over there with the
like these other teams, every team can do this within their parameters, like Aaron said, with their BOP and where their regulation is. But if you don't know, during endurance racing, they're trying to modulate the car to save it for the entire race. So if it's a 24-hour race, maybe the lead engineer is making a decision to say, okay, I'm going to change the shift points from 9,000 to 8,000, and then for 14 hours. And then at hour 14, when it comes in, I'm going to let you guys go to 9,000 and like turn it up. Yeah. So that's what I mean by turning it up. So they're self-regulating their own car to manage the race. Some of these guys, they uncork the car right away, and they don't make it sometimes. So there's that risk too. But I know we kind of spun out when we talked about that. But congratulations to Larry. That's a cool team to race for. We like what they do as far as their liveries go, and we like their attitude too, because like in their little engine bays, they write little sayings and stuff. If you don't know, and who's ever going to go to the 24-hour Rolex is probably going to get to see this, that wins in the club membership. Yeah. But they write stuff like "send it" and all this kind of stuff like in their engine bay, where just their team sees it, or if you're in the paddock when they're in there working on the cars and you have a keen eye, you see stuff like that, where it's not like televised or any of that stuff. And, you see stuff, it's like "don't fucking die" and stuff like it's cool stuff where it's like race car grassroots stuff. It's like, hey, don't screw this up. You're going to kill yourself if you do, right? And like one of those kind of things where racing's gotten so professional in a lot of places, and not that they're not a professional team, but they love that they still have that razor's edge of, let's have some fun. We're kind of a hooligan about it. Like, let's go get after it. So congratulations to that team for signing him. Congratulations to Larry for ending up there. It will be an interesting season in IMSA to see where the rest of these guys end up, if they end up in other Porsches. Again, Bright's Motorsports is going to have a strong team. If they get, we talked to Jan. He said they're working a deal for him to come back and run the entire season with him and Patrick on that team. So they're going to have a stout team, but like he said, it's going to be a tough. GTD is it isn't normally, I guess, the eyes on class, but it's going to be this coming year.
Yeah, that's true. It is.
Because pretty much all of these drivers are going to end up somewhere on these teams because these guys still want to race. They're still young enough to race. So don't be surprised to see these guys. I mean, like Aaron was saying, like you're going to see him racing for Estes, racing for Corvette. He's a great driver in his own right. So
well, at least he still gets. I think his thing was he still gets to stay in GTLM.
It's probably the reason. Who knows? It's going to be an interesting race season, but like I said, we'll see what it goes. I'm excited to see. I'm glad to see some of these Porsche names end up in some places. I want to see some of these other guys end up in places like Tandy and all those other guys where they maybe end up. It'd be great to see. But let's talk about this month's giveaway. What are we giving away? Speaking of track stuff, you see how we set that up? Roll right into it, right?
24.
Didn't even purposely do that, but that's perfect.
So it's going to be 2 4-day wristbands and then parking. And if you know about any of those 3 things, they're always fun to get. Yeah,
exactly. Parking is, even for somebody who's early bird like us, even us ascertaining those parking passes when we did was a pain in the ass. So who's ever going to win these tickets, you're going to be in good shape. So good for you. And it's not we're not giving these away because we're not going. We were just able to acquire some better parking and ticketing for ourselves. Yes. So by reason of default, a club member is going to win this package, and we also thought how fitting for Christmas, right? Yeah, for a club member to win this for our club membership, those people that are helping support PCAR Talk, because that's the only support that we can get. We don't have any sponsorship support, which we would love some, but we just don't, we don't have it. It's not for lack of listenership. We appreciate you guys listening. So if you're thinking about joining and you haven't, and you've told us you're going to join, please do. Or just not tell us you're going to join and not do it. Like that's also a morale buster when you tell us you're going to do it and then you don't follow through. So what we're saying is the only sponsorship or only club help at all is from our PCAR Club membership, from you guys helping us.
That's how the sport happens.
So that's how you help support PCAR Talk. So if you thought about joining, you don't have to own a Porsche to join. We're not like other clubs where you have to put your VIN number in to join. If you're an enthusiast, you can become a PCAR Club member. And you're not just giving us money. There's monthly giveaways. We just announced what we're giving away to PCAR Club members. So you don't have to own a Porsche to go to Rolex 24. And that alone is a great package that we're giving you. We gave away a watch one month, $500 value. We give away You're giving away a lot of good stuff monthly. You're not getting garbage. You're getting a lot of one-off stuff. We gave a painting away. Just naming some stuff. Like we've given away some really, really good stuff, and all of our PCAR Club members know that. We try to give you stuff we would want. We don't try to just give you garbage. So, and the fact that we want cool stuff, that means our membership's going to get cool stuff. So I'll reiterate, please help us out. That's where our support comes from. You are our support. Our current PCAR Club members, thank you guys so much for supporting us. You can become a PCAR Club member at pcartalk.com and just click on membership and help support the cause, because your boys are out here grinding for you and meeting people. And this only happens with your support, right? So this is the only way it gets done. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll talk about 2022 GT3 stuff. Thank you guys listening to PCAR Talk so much. We appreciate you guys so much. I can't say that enough. Check us out on YouTube. We release videos on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Help support the channel. Everything we're doing is trying to bring the community closer together. We definitely appreciate that. Also, when you go onto YouTube, if you could subscribe, maybe pass it along, make a comment, we really appreciate that. Again, circling back to pcartalk.com, there is a newsletter created on there. Please put your information in there. That way we can keep you up to date on anything that's coming forward and anything that we're going to be doing moving forward, and all the exciting things that are coming out. Now back to the show. All right, we're back from break, and we're going to talk about the 2022 GT3. So there was a semi-reveal a few weeks ago. If you're not social media savvy, you may have not seen it. You may have just seen some leaked photos, but Chris Harris kind of sneaked some better views of this thing. They pulled the curtain back a little bit more on it. Showed the car a little bit more of what it's going to look like for the most part, and showed the launch color. what I think the most important part about this interview when Chris rode in the test mule that he was able to get out of him was that they did confirm that there's a manual version coming out of this vehicle.
Yeah.
So for me as an enthusiast, granted, I'm not a buyer. I'm not trying to front that like I am. But just to hear that is an exciting thing. So I think that's a great thing that Porsche is offering that as a manual. It was funny. I'm sure you watched it, right?
No, yeah.
And how he talked about, he goes, well, I always made the decisions based on what I thought would be best for everybody. Like, so like meaning PDK. Yeah. And then he's like, everybody wants a manual. He's like, I don't know what's right anymore. He's like, so I just offer both. So we're just going to offer both now.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to play on that for a little bit. So now that they're offering both, do you think that this is going to impact the 2008 GT3 manuals where people are like, this is the last manual GT3 ever? 18, and where people ran to them, fought for allocations, paid up for allocations on them, and now even secondhand prior to the release or even the voice of this, and they're still probably carrying that because, obviously there's a ripple effect, so it's got some time to catch up. GT3 2018 manuals still carry a higher premium than any of the PDK versions of the same. So like I almost want to say like a 20 to 30%, or even in some cases with a special color and a manual, like a 40%. On the vehicle. Do you think that's going to impact that car? Meaning, do you think those are going to slide some on price down?
I think maybe not. And the only reason I think maybe not is because if you're a 991 body style fan and you're not a 992 body style fan, it may not be the difference. Just because there's a new manual doesn't necessarily mean I don't think it's going to take its toll on the other manual. It's still going to be special in its own right.
But do you think it's still going to be able to carry such a high premium as they were? I think the premium they were carrying is because they didn't think there was ever going to be another manual that came out.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it does come down a little bit, but I don't know if it really was. It's still limited though in that time and place, whether or not the new one's out or not. It's still limited in that specific model range. I don't know. I don't know that it drops a drastic amount because it's still a GT car. But maybe do you think it comes? Maybe it'll close that gap though. Instead of being at 30-40% higher than that, its same sister car of the same year, the PDK, like saying compared to an 18 PDK car. Do you think that maybe now, let's just throw a number out and say like that car's selling at 140 or something like that, like the PDK car. Now, do you think the other car will sell at like 145 or 150 instead of 180? It probably will too. It might come down because now I just thought about it in a way that now it's telling you.
Because think about it from a consumer standpoint.
Manual from now for the next.
Think about the consumer standpoint. I can argue that from a secondhand dealer now to say, dude, I'll just buy the new one at that price in manual.
Yeah, that's true.
So how are you going to sell your secondhand one if you're still asking this? I think they have to go down.
Yeah,
that's my personal opinion. I think they have to.
I guess you're right. They can't argue. They can't argue the fact that it's the last or it might be the last because now we have probably a 10
and this one's better.
Generation.
Like regardless of looks are always biased.
Yeah.
Things that you can't argue is that this has RSR front suspension now.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's double wishbone front suspension in the 2022. I mean, you're getting straight up RSR stuff from this car.
Yeah. And that's the
you can't argue.
Version.
You can't argue that in an 18.
No.
Regardless of looks, again, looks are subjective. What one person thinks is beautiful is somebody doesn't think is beautiful. So it doesn't matter. Just because maybe the majority may think that thing is beautiful, that doesn't mean everybody thinks that car is beautiful. And then now that requires a premium because of it.
And now we really got to see the car. If we want to look at it, the Cup car.
Yeah.
Because there's no camo, nothing anymore.
Exactly.
So
and then
that is the RS. That is the GT3.
And the thing that they showed on the non-R, like the Cup car, on the Swan Neck, now that they revealed what it really looks like, what's your takeaway on it? Is it a lot better than you thought it was going to be? Do you think it's still like garbage?
Color, it looks better.
I think so too. I think it looks a lot more integrated than it did on the camo. And I like how, I always forget his name.
Which one?
The CEO of GT Cars.
Andy Prus. It's Andy.
Yeah.
Let's go by Andy or Andreas.
Andreas, yeah. So I love how he said in that video, he goes out of his way to make them look like Dookie, like the cars.
Yeah,
he wants them to look terrible. He actually seeks the trolls responses, and he says he enjoys everybody saying like the car's garbage, this is that, this is that. Oh, look at the bumper, it's terrible. He said he purposely makes the car look like poop. So when you see the car, you're like, oh my God, that's way better. So it's another marketing tool.
Yeah. That's more media attention. I mean, they do it. They got it down pat.
Yeah. So what do you think about the launch color of it? It's like that. What are they calling it? Shark?
They have, as far as I know, they don't have a color name for it.
I've heard like people on that, like they're calling it shark something, like shark ocean blue or something like that, or something weird. Or I mean, I think that might be the official color. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, obviously it's a take on Mexico, and
it's like Mexico and Miami merged.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And there's probably some old school color.
Yeah, and there's probably a little bit of maritime sprinkled in there too, and whatever. But I think it looks cool. Like, I like.
It's not green.
No, it's not lizard green. But I think it's a good launch color. I think it's a good looking car. I hope those 18s come down because hopefully I am like a buyer at some point on one of those cars, right?
So negotiation wise,
everybody that has one, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I mean, I love your car, but I'm just being like honest about what that car is. And we talked about it in prior episodes, obviously another make and model, but the new, there's still a group of buyers who always want the new regardless. Like so I think that's going to be a hard resale for people that are gathering these up. And I'm not talking about private ownership for people to like flip these, or I'm talking about like where you have these conglomerates that have, 5 or 6 and they're cornering the market on like special colors, and they're manual, and this, I got a chalk, and I got a speed yellow one, and I got this. And it's like, those are great and all, and those are cool, but I've got the money and I got an allocation, and I want the new because I want the more horsepower. I want, the wider body. I want the RSR suspension. Oh, by the way, I can still get a manual in that car too.
That's a new level, and what that makes me think is, what is the RSR what is the RS gonna have?
Oh yeah,
like
it's gonna be ridiculous.
It's gonna have to be so much race car. It's gonna be unbelievable.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be the closest street race car.
It's probably just the cup car, just painted.
Pretty much, probably.
I mean, that's how close I want to say that it.
And then we saw, how awesome it would be too, because we've thought some theories of this too. Like, I know we're spiraling to the RS of it, but we did see some test mules, and maybe that was for the cup car. But how great would it be if they made the street car and it had the same aero and the same huge flares that the RSR car has for the street GT3 RS? That would be a game changer. Like, you want to talk about how to change the RS game, where everybody's like, well, the RS is all kind of the same. That car, if they did that to it with the body flares of the RSR car, game over.
Which they might, but I think that was the mule, actually the cup car. But,
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
But how sick would that be?
But there's still that other car that nobody knows what it is with the ducktail.
Oh, yeah. Where people are like, oh, it's an anniversary car, it's this or it's that, and who knows? I'm sure we'll see it eventually. It'll surface and it'll be something.
Boy, did we spiral off this
Yeah.
GT3 topic.
Well, I mean, it is kind of like, it's all that mule. Like, it's all us spinning off of that car. So now let me play another question for you. So if I'm a guy, I'm giving you the money right now. You have it. Like, so now you're in a different category. You're walking up to the table. Do you buy a PDK car? Because we've driven PDK GT3s and we've driven manual GT3s. Do you buy a manual or do you buy PDK one?
Depends on the owner.
I'm talking about you. I'm not talking. I want you to answer for you. I don't want you to answer for the general populace.
Manual.
Okay. Tell me why.
I just know it's still gonna be awesome to drive a manual. There's still gonna be a connecting factor. I may not be able to pull a paddle and be there, and maybe not be as balanced
and be as fast.
But I still think that'd be something to control that whale that happens all the way up to 900.
You're still controlling it with.
I know, but
it's in manual mode. The car won't shift; it'll ping off the reg limiter. Like, so you're still controlling it. So you mean you want to control it in a different way? Yeah. You want to control it with a pedal.
Yeah.
Okay, I see that. Fair enough.
But I could see a track day where it'd be like, okay, maybe I should go with BDK. But I'm not putting on track that often. But I mean, that's the reason to get an RS. If I'm really going to track it. I think if I'm the GT3 buyer, then I'm a.
You say that, but there's a strong delta between those two cars as far as pricing
Well,
goes.
I agree. But if I feel like if I'm a G3 buyer, I might be tracking it some, but I'm not all the way on track. But you take that GT3 RS versus a Cup car or anything else, and then your delta between those two cars kind of makes it worth it.
So if you're not going to track that much, do you think you'd be a better GT3 touring buyer as opposed to
probably
like a winged
probably
GT3?
I'd probably enjoy that too and made a nice manual.
Yeah, I think that's why that car only comes in manual. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see where you're at with that. I mean, I would probably buy a manual also.
I'm thinking about this as being like an only car. Like this is all I have.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I would buy it for the fun factor. I think just to be able to hoon it myself, like with the manual. I think that's always a fun thing to be able to do.
It's gonna be the last one, right?
Yeah. Buy it because it's the last one. I'm sure that's what everybody heard in 18. They're never building another one. Well, 4 years later, kicking the nuts. Here's another one. But yeah, I wonder how all those guys have pit of their stomach probably feels on those. Like, oh.
It's
so do you think we're going to see like a GT3 manual dump coming up, like like of 18s, like where people are like, get rid of it, I gotta get the new one,
Well, I mean, I think it's a big enough game changer when they're doing things like RSR suspension that they've wanted for a while. I think that's a big enough leap where if you have an 18, might be the time to make.
Well, you heard like Chris has been in a million cars, and you heard him say, just riding in it, he doesn't like to give passenger reviews because that's just not his style. He's not that kind of guy. But he can feel the difference in the front of the car, just in the passenger seat. So, I mean, I can imagine from the driver's seat what that must be like.
There's got to be that grip has to be unreal.
Yeah.
With all-wheel steer and
yeah, it's a definite. I mean, the car was already a point and shoot, so who knows what it's probably just glue now on the road. Which
Cup bars. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see them when they start getting delivered. I mean,
so you in the shoes of the buyer, what color do you go with? Do you go launch color blue or do you go?
I think I go launch color. I'm kind of one of those guys that like, you're going to see a lot of them because they're new when they first come out, and it may seem played out at first, but if you're willing to stick it out and hold on to the car for a while, I think the launch color becomes a cool color because people are like, oh, that was the launch color. Almost kind of the way the lizard green is now. We used to see a ton of them when they first came out, remember?
Yeah,
and the GT3 RS when they launched that car, and everybody's like, oh, that's gross, and it's this, and it's too bright, it's too this. Now you hardly see any of them.
Yeah.
Most of the 3 RSs you see now, they're not in lizard green.
They're in blue, a lot of blues.
Yeah, whites. You don't see a lot of lizard green around. And I think it's something neat to have the launch color color also, because clearly Porsche picked that color for a reason, even if it's an in-house disclaimer reason why they picked it. They still decided to launch that car in that color, so I think that's another cool factor to have in that color. If you're a buyer ever, if you're able to buy the launch color, I think that's kind of a cool thing to say. Like, okay, well, Porsche, Auto House picked this as their launch color for a reason.
Yeah.
So I probably picked the launch color.
How do you think what's his face felt on Carfection when he got like a little wheel peak, and then like the next, it wasn't like hours later when Chris Harris launched his video, and Andy was like, "Hey,
yeah,
I want to see like 3/4 of the car."
Well, I think Carfection was just happy to be invited, to be honest with you, and not that saying that they're a small outfit. I'm definitely not throwing stones by any means. I think they're just pleased to be invited to a situation like that.
Awesome.
And I think they invited Chris Harris because he's Chris Harris, and they knew Chris Harris was going to be Henri on purpose. And he was going to be like not going to leave there. Yeah, they have tons of history. I mean, they go on drives together. Come on. Like, so they know it was almost kind of like, I mean, Porsche did that on purpose, as a teaser.
Plus with Top Gear, so that helps too.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying as a teaser to tease you up.
Oh yeah, it went everywhere.
That's why it started with Carfection first, to be like, oh man, like I wish we could have seen more. And then obviously, Chris.
Purposeful.
Yeah, no, I know it, dude. Come on, that wasn't accidental. And then Chris Harris's Top Gear thing drops, and they show nearly the entire car. Like,
and then now the Cup car is there, so you can see everything.
Yeah, we knew that was coming, dude. We knew that was coming. So 2021, do you think, even though they're calling them 2021s, you know how manufacturers do that where they're like...
Yeah, the end of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think we're going to start seeing these? Because there hasn't been an announcement with that yet. When deliveries will start coming up on these, like when these are going to start showing up.
But I wonder if they're kind of just waiting to see what they can do with the factories. I mean, with everything going on.
That's true, too. And I probably should have reached out to Chris before I wrote this topic to see if they're even taking allocations for this yet, or if they've even got an opportunity to have an allocation for the new GT3 yet, because I'm curious to see if that's happening.
I think they have not, just based on the year marker.
Actually, I know they haven't, because there's enough people on social media that would brag to say, like, I've got my allocation in. So probably not. And I know they're not making...
We would have heard something by now.
They're not making these people send NDAs yet, like over allocations. So like,
nope.
But what I mean is, like, you know, the big prominent social media people that have just like money to throw away and they're in the car business and they're like, they would be bragging is what I'm getting at, is like, oh, I got my allocation for the new GT3. Can't wait. Like, we would see that already. So yeah, I guess I kind of answered my own question without even really thinking about it. So I guess not, but I bet it's got to be soon.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be in the next couple months, probably like February. I bet they're going to start taking allocations for this.
Yeah, start getting the money rolling in.
Yeah. Because I got to start game planning on, and again, I don't know if they're going to do PTS or if it's just launch color only and then whatever on the pallet wheel, that's still up in the air. And let's be honest, they haven't done an official launch of the car yet.
Well,
like that thing with Chris Harris was not an official launch.
That's going to happen first. So
that'll probably happen after New Year's. I bet that'll happen in the first few weeks of
spring launch, and then
probably. I don't know if they'll go that long. I bet this still happens, like the official digital launch happens sometime in January, February of the car.
Yeah,
like where they show it, because they're not going to do a launch like they've been doing the COVID launches where they're showing those. Like,
I hope they do, and I understand. German brand, got it. 100% on board with that. These American translated.
Oh, they're the worst, aren't they?
I don't understand who thought that was a good idea. Just
I don't either.
Get Patrick, get Pat Dempsey, get some. Even they have U.S. correspondents.
They've been using that guy from Australia for a lot of their stuff too.
Yeah.
What's his name? He used to drive for them. I forget his name now. But now he's an ambassador. Well, anyways, you guys know what I'm talking about. He does like the Goodwood stuff for them.
Yeah. And then get him. And
I don't know. I don't get it either. I don't really like it a lot, to be honest with you.
Just
like,
do a separate
I'm a
thing.
Porsche nut, and I actually, I'm going to be flat out. I turn it off, like, because that's how much I don't like it.
Yeah, I was about to watch the Cup thing. I was like,
we enjoy how much the doors close, and when we thought of the design
and
of
I know
the
they
car,
can speak English. This is the other part.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. That's another frustrating thing too. It's like these bastards speak English.
I mean, Andreas had the whole thing with both those guys. Yes, so that means, and he speaks.
Yeah, he speaks perfect
English.
English.
He speaks multiple languages, but yeah, even if that's the case, and they don't like to speak English because they don't speak it properly or however they feel about it, because that's normally the case. Have somebody else presented for the American audience. I don't think that's too much.
I think it's just the Porsche way, where they don't give a shit. I think that's what it boils down to. They're like, we're Porsche, dude. If you don't want to deal with it, whatever, move on. I really think it's that, because they're not catering to, like we talked before, they're a worldwide brand, so they're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, they'd be like, why isn't he speaking Chinese? They sell a gazillion cars over here.
Business, English. Thank you.
But I need somebody who speaks some American up in here.
I mean, I just think it's an awkward. I don't think that it's a wrong way to approach it. I just feel like it just seems awkward.
I hate the dub thing. Like, I don't like it either. Like, and anybody who's listening works in audio too. Like, if you're part of that, like, Netflix people who like dub over voices and make these movies in like France or whatever, and you think that we want to watch them here, they're not subtitles. They're worse than that. They're dubbed over.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
The minute, like, I read now where they're from, the origin of the movie, and if it's not, nope, not. You got me last time. Not today. Yeah, not today, Satan. Not watching this one today.
They do that in Germany. So they have an actor for an actor.
Yeah, that's like those old kung fu films. Nobody wants to watch that crap.
Yeah. So if it's like Kevin, let's do it in English. But if they have a German movie, it's like Kevin Hart. They have a German guy that's a German Kevin Hart, and he always plays that. And that type of thing.
I know we spun off course here, but
anyway, now we're on movie topics.
Let's get back to GT3 talk.
The release of those commercials, when they do the launch, let's just make it in English. Thank you.
Yeah. Aaron had his rant. I'm wearing off on them too much. So GT3, I know we joked around about it being the final run of a manual and naturally aspirated and all that other jazz, and we've talked about it a lot, and we see the impending doom of hybrid technology probably making its way into GT cars, whether people like it or not. That is possibly because they said they're still going to be naturally aspirated. They did claim that.
Yeah.
But
once it does that, they're not going to be able to have a manual in that, are they?
I don't think so. Well, there's hybrid manual cars.
Is there?
Yeah, I think Mel drives a piece of crap Insight that's a hybrid in its manual.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's the only one I know about.
Anyways, so they could still do it. Where I was going with this is I was leading all that fluff in to say, like, we're probably going to see this motor eventually go away. And there's going to be a hybrid assist on an NA motor. That's impending, whether you like it or not and you're listening. Yeah. That's happening. We just don't know when. But what I was going to say is, because now there's a hybrid assist, do you think that then you kind of brought it up, it's possible they can do it, but do you think that they just stop at that point? Because now it's like, all right, now it's PDK because we have a hybrid system in this car. And
I think even if it is possible, they still explain it away. And because of the hybrid, where it's not possible.
Yeah, they make it to where it's like it won't work with that system, and then they force the PDK.
We've adapted it to be the most efficient with a PDK.
So that's their window to like basically put the manual to bed in the GT car. Is that their window?
It's not as efficient with a manual, so it needs to be made up with a PDK transmission.
There's too much of a delay; it screws it up, something like that. Yeah. Whatever smoke and mirrors you tell the people.
That's what I think the play is.
Yeah, and that's their out where Andreas is like, please. Like,
I just want to make one transmission.
Yeah, I just want to make one and be done. Right, be done with it. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's hard to say if this is going to be the last one, like this particular one, because I'm sure people in 18 were thinking the same way, and I don't want to like basically throw myself on the sword because of that and say that this is going to last one. But I'd be willing to say that the 992 Gen might be the last one. Even like they may make a manual and a .2. Because clearly you're making a touring. There's no secret of that because we've seen the touring test mule.
No, and I think we have like 10 years. We have the model line.
That's what I'm saying. I think we get 991.1 and .2 in manual, but whatever they end up calling the next thing, it's not going to be 993 because that already exists. So whatever the hell this ends up being, 994 or 5, it's not going to be 996. So whatever they jump around to, whatever number, I think maybe that would be the end. So I think we've got the .1 and the .2. Yep. I'm basing this clearly off of nothing, but just pure feel and seeing where the hybrid electric market is going. That's what I'm basing this off of. In 18, when they were saying this is going to be the last manual GT3, I wouldn't have thought it at that point because I'm like, well, they're still going to be making the car, so I don't know if that's necessarily true. Yeah. I wouldn't have bought into that.
The technologies weren't here yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't have bought into all of that yet, but maybe, like you said, in the next however long they run the 992, if it is 8 years, that's pretty long for a Porsche stint. But the 997, which was one of the longest runs, ran from 05 to 11?
12, I think 12.
12, so 7 years. So maybe 7 years. So we got 7 years of 992, which is 2020. Yeah. So we got to 2027 probably with the whole 992 Gen.
Then it's all going to be full EV.
And then it's going to be hybrid, probably a 3-liter assist, and it's, I don't know.
You're going to have to choose from. It's going to be, you want a hybrid or you want a full EV? That's it. Me too.
A topic for another day. But enough of that. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Again, please support the channel by becoming a PCAR Club member. We would appreciate it. You guys have a Merry Christmas because this is out on Christmas Eve.
Enjoy Christmas.
Hopefully Santa has brought you some juicy stuff.
Yep.
And the winner of the tickets will be announced next week, right?
Yeah.
So Merry Christmas to you from us with those tickets. And I hope you had a great holiday with your fam or away from your fam if that's what you wanted as well.
Whichever way.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of PCAR Talk. Connect with us on Instagram at PCAR Talk or online at PCARTalk.com.